joy or when you're feeling either joy or despair, every time you say a psalm, I do believe it's sending out into the universe powerful energy for the good. And just imagine that. Imagine if you really believed it. So just pretend you believe it, and just imagine it sending that energy out every time you say a psalm, in any way, whether you say it in Hebrew or English or Latin or Greek. But getting back to the Hebrew, there is nothing that replaces that feeling of being close to the language in which it was written 2,500 years ago. How many things do you do that has that level, except for Harold? How many things do the rest of you do that has that connection to an ancient world? That it's And on a very practical level, nothing defeats depression as much as learning something new. Nothing. Nothing defeats a sense of despair as just having your mind engaged in really learning something new, and realize no matter who you are, wherever you are in life, you can learn what an olive looks like, and you can learn to even spell out a word, or you can begin to know the difference between Robert Alter and Richard Levy, and know the difference between what it you hear. If I were to take one of the translations that we've been studying and not tell you who wrote it, at this point most of you would be able to say that is Norman Fisher, or that is Robert Alter. I mean, so it's all these different levels, or that you can identify biblical parallelism, or see these themes as they repeat and have them mean something to you. It's very exciting. So
So we're
today,
we're at time, but if you wanted to take a few minutes of rabbinic privilege to update us on your trip
yes,
to the West Coast, we'd love to hear.
yes. So I am back, as you can see where I am. It was both very meaningful and also poignantly sad. Um, there's nothing like traveling a little bit to appreciate all the different ways we've lost some things. On the other hand, because of Zoom, I was able to really continue working and doing so much at CBST. Although I couldn't maintain the Psalms class, I was able to do a lot of other things. And we rented this little Airbnb next to my daughter's house, so that for the first period when we were in quarantine, we could still see them in the backyard, masked and socially distanced. So even that was so amazing. And as some of you know, I have two granddaughters, Liba's and Micah's two children, and one was born in January. So I saw her when she was born, and we stayed for the baby naming and then came back, and then COVID, so we haven't seen her. Anya is her name. So it's impossible to have a relationship with a baby over FaceTime, and so that was pretty special and fantastic. And my older granddaughter Zelda will be 5 in February, so that's also not an easy age to have a relationship over FaceTime with. So and yeah, so it was really really beautiful. And some of you saw there were some cameo appearances at Friday night services, some planned, some not planned. um, so I'm really grateful that CBST allowed me to do this, and I was able to do it. And then it's hard to leave them, as much as it's hard to not be in your own life. It's hard to leave them. And yeah, so I am happy to be back in my own apartment. There's nothing like being in your own, with your own stuff and your own place. And it took me a while this morning to get my computer hooked up to all the equipment again. So I've got all the equipment hooked up, but it was very meaningful to be there. Uh, um, and you saw I had to change locations a few times for Friday night services as I tried to figure out how to do it from there, which was an experience. But my son-in-law has one of those standing desks where he works from home, which I really loved. I've never worked with one before, and it can go up and down, so you could use it as a regular desk. Does anybody here have one of them? Wow, now I get it. I mean, now I
Is it the
get it.
electric one? Does it have the,
Uh,
or do you,
yeah, you do push a button, so I guess it's electric. I don't know how it got its power, or if it's like my chair that you just but so it can go up and down, and it has plugs in it. It's so you can plug your computer into it, and it plugs into the wall. But it was so convenient to be able to decide height like that.
Right.
And because I like to lead services standing up, which is very hard to do unless you have the appropriate stuff, because, while we're leading services, I have to control all the muting and the video. So I have to be close enough. I can't stand far away from the computer because I have to be close enough to control the video and the mute. Ugh. As everybody knows, I hate technology. So doing that. But I have to say, having a 30 something children in the house who could handle, there were a few times things went wrong and that I had somebody else to turn to besides Randy, who is more useless than I am when it comes to technology. I'd help her, which gives you an idea of how sad it is. So that was pretty fantastic to have a young person around who could do stuff.
Rabbi, can you please say what it was like traveling?
Well, traveling, I was hermetically sealed. And we just traveled Saturday night, there was nobody in the airports. I think Sunday would have been a bad day to travel, but I had, face mask, what do you call it? Shield, the face shield on top of my face mask. And I had an N95 face mask. I'm now in quarantine again. We got tested. You have to get for the travel stuff. I got tested 3 days before we left. So I know flying, and then I was in quarantine till we flew. So I know I was negative before I flew. And now I'm in quarantine and I take a test in 4 days. And I'm under Nate Goldstein's he's supervising all these things. And then I take a test in 4 days, wait for that result to come back. And that's the quarantine for traveling. So I actually felt okay because I didn't come close to anybody. I didn't eat on the plane. I didn't take my mask off ever. So I felt it was I did as much as humanly possible. And when we got to LA, we quarantined and then got tested twice before we had contact with anybody. We did one of the PCR tests and then an antigen test. I mean, now I know so much about every one of these tests, boy.
Are the airlines monitoring those things, or?
Well, when you land yeah, exactly. When you land in JFK, the Army is there. The reserves are there handing out forms that you have to fill out. I am not sure anybody reads those forms, to be honest. I mean, you put them in a box, you could say anything. I happen to be a very honest person, but.
My sister-in-law got a call from the city. She went to Houston to see her new grandchild. And she got a call from the city after she came home telling her she's not to go out. And if she's found being outside, she's going to get a fine. So somebody reads those forms.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I'm not saying that. It was hard to believe. It just seemed kind of, but they have the reserves in the airport. But the JFK was empty. There was nobody there. And I obviously didn't eat in JFK. So yeah, I did it as best as I could do it. And now I'm in quarantine. I was negative as of the end of last week, and we'll.
All right. Shall we?
Yes.
Off to the races here with Cantor Nimi. All right, we can see this.
Yes. So good to be back with everyone. And as I mentioned, I think the last time I shared something was the Thursday before the big read, when we were still immersed in Psalm 12. And whenever I look at the words of Psalm 12 talking about duplicitous and deceitful speech, my mind immediately goes to this piece of liturgy at the end of the Amida. Talking about asking God to guard our speech from evil, and to keep our lips from speaking deceit, almost as if the person who wrote this liturgy had Psalm 12 in the back of their head, saying, like, please let my speech not be like that. And then it ends with this piece of liturgy that which is also from Psalms. I'm actually now struggling to remember which one. Asking for the words of our mouths and meditations of our hearts to be acceptable to our Creator. So this is a melody by a friend and former teacher of mine, Toby Singer. It has never been published or commercially recorded to my knowledge. He played it during a composer showcase that I coordinated through my cantorial program back in 2017. He does it with piano, and the piano is gorgeous, and I cannot replicate it with guitar. So I'm going to sing it a cappella for you all. Elohai ולשוני מהירה. ושפתי מדבר מרמה, ולים קל אלי נפשי תדום, ונפשי כעפר לכל יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי וגואלי יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי וגואלי.
Wow, that's spectacular. Thank you. And I'm not sure it got announced to this class. We've certainly put it out on CBST's social media that Cantor Nimi is officially being installed this Saturday night?
This Saturday evening.
This Saturday evening at his congregation in Madison. And maybe you can share the link in the chat during class today.
Sure,
shared it
I'll
on CBS.
I'll pull it and maybe post it again on the in the Psalms
Okay,
class on
yeah,
Facebook
so that
as
is
well.
something, as many of us should try and go there. I'm sure it'll be very beautiful. And because we're all on Zoom, this is one of the great advantages. We get to go to the installation without leaving our homes.
Yes, thank you.
So proud of you.
So we are at offerings for Psalm 12, although Psalm 12 seems very far behind for us. And I just posted in chat the order in which we'll be doing the readings. I don't know quite how far we'll get today, but we are going to start with Sherry Dratfield. Let me go to full screen. Sherry, are you ready?
I am ready.
And I will make it a little bigger. Okay. Whoops. Okay, go ahead.
The Stutter, inspired by Psalm 12. Silence. Wait. Listen. Holiness is in the pause, the inhale before the slow exhale, the pure P in perfect, pronounced on a steady wave of breath, diaphragmatic. Light articulatory contact tricks the tangled tongue so that the T in truth is not tattered in triplicate. Rescue is in the rest, the pause, phrasing. They sow the seeds of salvation. 7 saving syllables, said simply. These are our 10 commandments. Listen this time. Carry shards of smashed tablets as a reminder to be patient with impoverished lips, heavy with hunger to speak the word.
Wow, Sherry, I love your use of various forms like alliteration here. Talk to us, speak to us about this.
Well, first of all, it's an impossible poem to speak.
I think that's part of your point, right?
Yeah. Well, when we were going over Psalm 12, Moses, the stutterer, and then of course at the same time, Biden's election. And they're both stutterers. And what does that mean? The opposite of smooth speech is what?
Right.
Stuttering. And each element of
moving.
each syllable has to be examined. I did some research, and the very act of speech requires an effort to find. It's almost like a spiritual center. There are exercises to help, and I was struck by the many meditative exercises that go into conquering stuttering. Well, there is no cure.
Yeah.
But in Psalm 12, the facile, smooth speech of the wicked bring oppression, arrogance, death, and the one who's slow of tongue brings redemption and Torah, if only we have the patience to listen.
Wow.
Hey, Levy.
Overlay.
Yeah, Levy has like pure words of God versus the treacherous words of the wicked. So I researched Moses as a stutterer, and he really was a stutterer, and Rashi and others.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I tried in the poem, the idea of the poor and the groaning wretched. Well, stutterers feel the same way. They feel impoverished. They have no control over their lips or their tongues, and they you can groan as a stutterer, no stuttering and groaning. And I also tried to incorporate the 7, which is like spiritual completeness, and with 7 saving syllables, and some of my phrases are in 7 syllables. These are our 10 commandments is in 7 syllables, and sow the seeds of salvation. And anyway, that's what I came up with.
It's just brilliant. It's clever, but clever in that deep sense of reflecting in the form, the content of what you're trying to go to, which I just love. And obviously very great poetry as a result.
Yeah. Harold, could you put it up for a second?
Absolutely. Hold on. Here we go. Whoops, wrong thing. Hold on. Let me get this in front. Can you see it?
No.
Not yet. We
Right,
have
yeah,
to
no, I
get
have
the
to
last
clear off my desktop here for a second and get it forward. Sorry, keep talking. Play for time.
And I think this imagery is actually quite throughout the biblical text because of Moses identified as a stutterer. And it's one of the reasons he initially says he doesn't want to be a leader, because he doesn't think he can lead because he is slow of speech, he says. And I very much like that image, that's precise. That's a piece of what precisely makes him a good leader.
Can you see it now?
Yes, here we are. Yep.
Yeah. And actually, the idea of Moses not wanting to be the spokesperson, and God says, I will be with you. And in a sense, these exercises, the therapies that have come up to assist people are like a divine intervention for stutterers.
Really beautiful. And
Rabbi, I was thinking that since it's been so long, maybe someone could read through the psalm in English for us and remind us about Psalm 12. Does that
you
make
need to
sense?
read Psalm 12 again.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is that okay?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Sorry,
All
I
right.
should have.
I'm going to pull it up. I
But
see.
Sherry, this is amazing because I'm looking at it I'm reading Sherry's with my English in front of me. So
Right.
yes.
I see Aura, and I'm going to ask if Aura could read. Aura, could you read this for us in English? Do you see it?
Yep. Okay. For the leader on the Sheminith, a psalm of David. Help, O Lord, for the faithful are no more. The loyal have vanished from among men.
Yeah.
Men speak lies to one another. Their speech is smooth. They talk with duplicity. May the Lord cut off all flattering lips, every tongue that speaks arrogance. They say, by our tongues we shall prevail. With lips such as ours, who can be our master? Because of the groans of the plundered poor and needy, I will now act, says the Lord. I will give help. He affirms to him, the words of the Lord are pure words, silver purged in an earthen crucible, refined sevenfold. You, O Lord, will keep them. guarding each from this age evermore. On every side, the wicked roam when baseness is exalted among men.
So Sherry, thank you so much, Aura. Yeah, it's a good reminder. But wow, I've never read it this way, Sherry. So I feel like you've just given me an insight into this psalm that I've never had before. And isn't it interesting how a contemporary moment, the president-elect stutter itself is and it's become an issue. I've never ever read it like this, and what a brilliant way to look at it.
So
Thank you.
Dean has a beautiful offering, which we're going to hold back for a little while because Dean and I have actually been working on a video presentation of her process
Wow.
and her thought process and her physical art making process. So as soon as yours truly has chance to finish editing it, we will show that. So we're going to hold off on her Psalm
Okay.
12 offering and go to Joan Friedman, if we might. Joan?
That's exciting, Harold and Dean.
Yes, many mornings. Joan, are you with us today? Do we see Joan?
Yes, I was taking a while to unmute.
Great.
I'm here. Okay. Dear God, all this lying and deceit. A president attacks even voter suppression specialists for not twisting the election far enough his way. His followers tell the nurses in the ICU, I can't have COVID, it doesn't exist. My daughter sneaks out at night after curfew. The least bad of these kept me awake last night. The ... is pause while life goes on for a while. The least bad had an explanation. Good words, pure words. Thank you, God. Now, about those wicked still roaming the streets.
Wow. Talk to us about this.
Okay. So yesterday, I'd been meaning to do something for Psalm 12, and I finally got to it yesterday. And I wasn't sure what to do, so I just started looking at the Psalm and saying, well, what if I line by line, right?
Good.
And
Always the way to go.
and so the part, and then from there, it was this kind of mix, obviously, of the world around me and the world quite close.
Yeah.
And so I was working on this, and and then my daughter walked in from she'd been from where she had been, and we had a very good talk. So the ... is kind of while we had this whole talk. And then, and then it was like, oh, all right. This is actually okay after all, and it's not in that category. And so I just felt like, thank you, God, that it came out like this. And then I kind of looked back at the poem, and it was like, well, it feels like God helped me with the thing that was like my small problem. And it's like, well, God, if you're here in the world that you can help with my small problem, how about doing something about all this really bad stuff? So it was kind of my life and the poem going back and forth with each other.
Beautiful. This is a fantastic example of what happens in some Psalms, in the book of Psalms, which is there are historical references that we now spend a lot of time trying to figure out, or using references to date a Psalm. Sometimes we understand what the references are, and sometimes we don't. So just imagine in 2,000 years, somebody reading your Psalm saying, voter suppression specialist, and trying to look up in a dictionary what that is. COVID, trying to look that up in a dictionary what it is. And it's fantastic because it actually, it actually buries it deep into this moment, which makes it so profound, and this can never be written exactly the same at a different moment in time.
Right. Well,
Some
the
Psalms are like that, and other Psalms zoom out so far that they could be at any time. But still, the overall power of the Psalm is that it's meaningful. Even if I don't understand what COVID is, even I don't understand what voter suppression is, I get what you're saying, and it's very moving. So
right.
I
I mean,
love
not.
the specific there.
I mean, not everybody knows that. I mean, many people here will know that I'm talking about Brad Raffensperger, and they'll know why I said this. But many people who follow the news a little bit less specifically, might have seen that he was being harassed, but not know that he had been involved,
Yep.
in the other stuff. But I wasn't worrying about that.
No, that's not it. Yeah, absolutely. And you make this point, and I love the opening, "Dear God, all this lying and deceit." That kind of sums up the Psalm in many ways, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I mean, it's, like in my life, I tend to talk to God as though I'm sure there's somebody listening. And it's not like I can prove there's somebody listening. But as you said once, I'd rather live this way.
Right. And it also helps us express pretty deep and meaningful things. Beautiful. Thank you very much for that.
Donna Gray.
Hey. It was almost the 11th hour, Adonai. It was starting to look like the faithful had vanished, and you along with them. How is it possible that so many were bamboozled by the braggadocio of a con man and remain under his spell? I don't understand. I breathe a sigh of relief for now that decency seems to be heading back on stage for a much needed encore. Yet the falsehoods continue, with wild eyes flashing and black hair dye dripping down sweaty cheeks. Sycophantic lips spew conspiracy theories of fraud, carried airborne on unmasked droplets of deceit, as if repeating a lie loud and long and often enough would be good enough to overturn reality. Adonai, we're in trouble. Thousands continue to get sick and die. Yet the greedy tap dance on the desperation of the needy, blatantly grasping at straws to hold on to lost power. This is a mistake. Hear our cry, Adonai.
Uh-huh.
We need Shekhinah to refine the sterling silver of our democracy 7 times.
Oh, beautiful. Mm-hmm.
So that the purity of truth will shine 7 times brighter than the allure of deception. For the wicked continue to prowl in our midst, their worthlessness exalted by those longing to believe in empty promises of something more.
Fantastic. Can you leave it up there while Donna talks, Harold? So while she talks about it, it's fantastic. Speak to us, Donna.
I've just been so upset about what's going on with this election. And, I didn't know what I was going to write about until I sat down to write. And sometimes writing these Psalms helps me know what I'm thinking and feeling. Yeah. And, I looked at the other writers for inspiration, taking a little here and a little there.
Great.
And, I just like some of these things, it's just mind-boggling. Rudy Giuliani, what? What is going on? And how could so many people continue to believe in the lies of a con man, bamboozled? I just don't get it. And it's so upsetting to me what's going on.
Yeah. Well, this is a beautiful expression. And I think that we come back to this over and over again. If we can use art, if we could use Psalms to express how we're feeling, we will understand ourselves better, and we end up helping to transform the world. That's an amazing gift. But the point of it is to create something of deep beauty that will speak to others. This line, we need Shekhinah to refine the sterling silver of our democracy 7 times, so that the purity of truth will shine 7 times brighter than the allure of deception. That is really powerful, Donna. It's really powerful. And it expresses what you're doing in this psalm is expressing one of the basic themes of the psalms, which is to really express the despair, to really let it out there, not sugarcoat it at all, and then to have this wistful prayer that there will be a power in the universe that can counter it. That's beautiful. That is powerful. It speaks to every human being alive, because we all experience both. And part of the power of the Psalms is the Nechemta piece, which is, well, maybe there will be something that will emerge that will overcome the evil that exists in the world.
Wow.
Really beautiful, Donna. Really beautiful. Keep writing. All of you keep writing.
Michael Goldstein.
I'm here. Now for something completely different. A David psalm for the musical leader to perform on an 8-string lyre. Because trust in faith is no more, help us. Rescue humanity from the lies of demagogues who deceive us with their forked tongues. Goodness will destroy the language of those who, to gain political influence, advocate social discontent and who assert our ideas are superior, so our proclamations are supreme. Goodness counters the wicked destruction and painful moaning of victims. Goodness will save the human soul. The words of holy goodness in the Torah, purified to perfection like silver, heated 7 times to refinement, will allow humans to arise from the wreckage of demagoguery. Goodness will protect humankind forever. Everywhere the chasm created by evildoers await them, and its functional purpose will benefit future generations.
Michael, this is fantastic. Talk to us, and then I'll.
Well, as you know, I'm into goodness in the Torah. And I went line by line.
Good.
Based on what we had talked about and what you had elaborated on, and I condensed it all into this. And to me, it's just the focus on studying Torah and doing good and finding good and knowing that good will prevail.
It's beautiful. And I love that you use the superscription, that for you that was important to include, which reminds us about it. David, and I like the David Psalm and an 8-string lyre. And your introduction to the crisis is because trust in faith is no more, help us. Very much in that pleading, that sense of petition, which is a piece of what the original psalm looks like. And rescue humanity. I like the capitalization there, by the way.
Well,
I like that very much. And to me, that indicates a kind of a godliness, that in humanity, God is found. By capitalizing it, you're giving it for me, I read it as a sense of divinity in humanity. Rescue humanity from the lies of demagogues who deceive us with their forked tongue. So a beautiful reference back to the original psalm. I really think this is fantastic. Really fantastic. Everywhere the chasm created by evildoers awaits them. So that also, I really like the image that what the evildoers are creating their own doom at some point.
Well, it can't happen soon enough.
Well, one thing I believe, and some of you have heard me say this, one of the things that, and God knows I would not have wished this on us, obviously, for anything, but and I think Darina might understand what I'm saying. Americans so believed in our American exceptionalism that we believed none of these things could happen to us somehow. And I think part of what we need to learn from this time in history is that there is no such thing as American exceptionalism, and that the deeper reality of the wicked and evil in the world and how bad it can get, which is what the rest of the world knows and parts of America know very well. We need to remember this, and we need to understand how evil exists in the world, and it's only because humanity can create the opportunity for it in some ways. But this is true all over the world, and Americans have been very naive, I think, and very Hollywood-esque about how problems get solved. And we are learning that Hollywood endings don't necessarily happen, and how to maintain a long-term commitment to doing good, even when things aren't easily solved with a snap of our finger. We need to learn that from the Europeans, like Darina, who continues to exist in a world in which there's been a lot of evil for a long time. And we're in this as a marathon. This is not going to be a sprint that's going to be over January 20th, no matter what. And we need to find ways to keep being inspired. So thank you, Michael, for that. I think you remind us all of that. Thank you. And goodness remains important to focus on, even if it's not, this is not going to be over on January 20th. I hate to be the messenger of that, although there will be great improvements in the world, no question. But our ability to stay focused and to stay committed is going to be the question of how long this can last and how much change we can make happen. So thank you, Michael.
Our last offering of the day is by Barbara Grindell. It is inspired by Psalms. It has more of a meaning though. And Barbara, why don't you set this up for us?
Well, when I read my Psalm 11, I said I was working on a psalm for my son. And I did that. I announced it to sort of push myself to get it done. Mm-hmm. Because on today, 40 years ago today, is when I gave birth to him. Mm-hmm. And he passed away a little more than a year ago, August 1st. All of those dates are in this poem. But I sat down to write it. I didn't know where I would start in his life or what, but I'm going to read it and then we'll talk again. And that's the picture. That's the picture of him at his law school graduation. Probably one of the proudest moments of his life, for sure. He did it. And I guess when you hear this, you'll know.
And Barbara brought him to CBST on occasion, and I got to.
I did. He has a conversation with you once that I spoke to you about. Yes, but he just didn't believe in organized religion.
Yes, I know that.
Yes, so that was, and yeah, okay.
I'm not sure I do either, Barbara. It's okay.
Oh, good. Okay, here we go. For John, an offering to your generous soul. My world was shaken from its foundation when your life ended. Then came all the if only and what if statements, followed by my overflowing tears. I loved you before I knew you, from the moment you were conceived. I loved you for the 9 months that I carried you. I loved that I was to be your mom. I gave birth to you 40 years ago today on November 30th, 1980. It was the happiest day of my life. You left this world far too soon, which was not your fault. You had a dark side, which was not your fault. You had only 38 years on this earth, but you accomplished so much and touched many lives. You enriched our lives with every heart-to-heart conversation, your knowledge and love. You became vegan during the years at Penn State and embraced it. You spoke for those who had no voice. You protested for animal rights. You described yourself as a feminist, cisgender male who believed in equality. Your friends described you as compassionate, helpful, incredibly kind and gentle, pure and genuine, a precious light. You graduated college and volunteered for the Peace Corps. You spent 8 months in Nicaragua. When you came back, you were told that you had bipolar disorder or some form of a mental health issue. You attended ASU and graduated with a master's degree. It was there that you met Stacy and Kelsey, and you remained friends. You moved back to New York and worked for Long Island Progressive Coalition. You volunteered for Birthright Israel and met Jamie. The two of you stayed close friends. Then you met Colleen, the most special woman in your life. After a few years, the two of you moved to Portland. Your mental health issues moved with you. In Portland, you made longtime friendships. Andy thinks of you as an amazing, awesome human. Chris, Steph, and many others felt your presence in their lives. After some time in Portland, you entered law school in Salem, and I should say Salem, Oregon. When Colleen met and later married Rafe, the three of you remained friends. You graduated from Willamette Law School in 3 years, even with all of your issues, ready to fight for social justice. You made some close friendships there. Teddy said he was beyond blessed to know you. Samantha said your values and ideas had others thinking and assessing their own beliefs. Brad remembers you opening up people to new perspectives just by being yourself. Kleinbaum said you showed up to give voice to the voiceless. Rabbi Ellison thought of you like a brother. They stayed important in your life until it ended. Andy and Chris adopted Gus and Roxy, your beloved rabbits. Your illness took you way too soon, but not soon enough for you. I know that you stayed around longer than you wanted to until you did the only thing left to do. You ended your life on August 1st, 2019. My world was shaken from its foundation when your life ended. With help from my wife, Cheryl, who loved you and whom you loved as a second mom, from our friends and family, our pups, Jonah and Gabby, our therapists, our survivors of suicide group, our connections to Am Hayam on Cape Cod, my Psalms class, rabbis and staff of CBST with whom I feel a spiritual connection. I am so grateful to Zoom in this time of COVID. Now, slowly, we are putting ourselves back together, our lives back together. Jonathan, I talk to you in my journal. I feel you in my heart. You remain my John boy forever.
Oh, Barbara, that is so spectacular.
Oh, wow.
I know the journey you've been on, and this was such a beautiful tribute and so moving and so powerful. Do you want to say a little bit more about writing?
Yes, yes. When I realized this would have been his 40th, it just spoke to me. I said, I have to do something. And ironically, I was working on it. It was almost finished. And then a scrapbook that his friends in Portland were working on, it came, I mean, over a year after his passing, and it came about 3 weeks ago. And I had some of this, some of the attributes to him, but I looked through the scrapbook and I was able to get people's comments, and that's how I did all that. And it was, and I called the couple, Andy and Chris, who worked on it, and they said it couldn't have come at a better time. I don't think I would have been able to look at it and get something from it. You need that distance. You know, of course, I have tears when I look at that, of course, you know. Now, but I wanted to tell his story. Also in Cape Cod, the shiver in Florida, people knew him. They met him a few times. In Cape Cod, no one really knew him. And I couldn't talk about it right after he passed away. I just couldn't. So I thought, if I can write something, and Cheryl and I, we've done services before for Am Hayam. It's a lay lead service. And even though we're leaving tomorrow and going to Florida, Zoom, you know, so we're going to lead a service, and I'm going to be able to read this in Cape Cod. And some of my friends from Florida will be on that call. I wanted people to know him, and this is why I wrote this. And that's why it started later in his life, except it started from the very beginning, and then I jumped to his college days. It's amazing what he was able to do, considering, because he didn't, being vegan, he didn't want to take his medicine. We would always have long conversations about that. But it's amazing to see what people thought of him. Aside from we loved him, of course, he's our son. But yeah, so. And this would not have happened. I tell you this, if I wasn't in the Psalms class. I had a calling. I knew I had to come into the class because I never would have been able to write this. I've never done anything like this. And I used the structure of many different, I like Bernstein's structure. So a lot of my sentences are like hers. But it's definitely from the Psalms class. And from CBST in general. And the fact that we go to services every Friday night now and light candles, all of it. So
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
And it is a journey, and it's also so profound that you can talk about the suicide openly, so that it also removes the stigma from it. And I know that the pain of that was so profound
in the beginning. Yes. And the group is helping. You were right about therapy, of course. I have a therapist. Cheryl has a therapist. We go together sometimes, and I have the group, and everyone in the group lost someone to suicide. Not necessarily a child. You know, because I used to say, well, if he was married, if he had children. No, there are people in that group that left a spouse, left their children. You know, there's no, it's like COVID doesn't discriminate.
Yeah,
Well, suicide doesn't,
Absolutely true.
you know, so I've learned a lot. I read it to my group last Wednesday night, and they said, you know, how I've grown to be able to write that.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll help other people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Thank
may
you.
his memory continue to be a blessing to you, as I know it is, and
Mm.
you and Cheryl be blessed every day.
Thank you.
And Barbara, I'll send you the chat so you can see what everybody said.
Oh, that would be
Sure,
great.
I can
Right.
speak on behalf of the Psalms class. I think we all feel deeply blessed to be.
Of course, I really, and you know, when Linda
feel
said
blessed
she
to
feels the
continue
Psalm
that.
class as a family, I like smiled to myself and I said, wait till you hear what I'm going to say. So, you know, but it was important for me in this class, especially to just talk about him. You know,
Yeah.
he was a person. He had a profound effect on the world, of course, on our lives, and I want to remember him as hard as it is. So,
Beautiful.
thank you.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you, Cheryl, if you're there.
Well, she's playing tennis.
Okay, she's playing tennis.
She's always playing tennis, so
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's okay.
Send our
And the
love.
puppies are in another room because they would be barking their heads off.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Wow.
I appreciate it. And thank you, Harold, for making this happen. Thank
Of
you.
course.
of course.
So Cantor, would you like to sing us out?
Sure. Thank you to everyone for sharing their hearts today. So again, this is a setting of Elohai Netzor by my friend and teacher, Toby Singer. If I ever get permission to share, I do have a live recording of him playing it, but I haven't got his permission to share it. If I ever get a chance to, I will absolutely do so. I imagine this is not the last time we'll be covering a psalm that talks about the difficulties of speech. So this is Elohai Netzor. Elohai Netzor Lishoni Meira Usfatai Midaber Mirma Velim Kalelai Nafshi Tidom Vinafshi Ke'afal Hakol Ratzon Imre fi v'hegion libi lefanecha Adonai Tzuri v'goali Yihu leratzon Imre fi v'hegion libi lefanecha Adonai Tzuri v'goali.
Beautiful.
Wow, thank you so much to everyone who shared today, and what a powerful collection of moving personal psalms. So the room will stay open for a few minutes. Folks are welcome to stay if you want to continue talking, and blessings to everybody. And Harold, do you want to say what we're doing tomorrow? How are we doing?
Yes, we will be continuing with offerings tomorrow.
Oh, we have more
And
tomorrow.
we
Great.
probably will be continuing with offerings at least a little bit in Wednesday, and then we will start Psalm 13, correct, Rabbi?
Yeah, excellent. Psalm 13 is has particular meaning, so that'll be
I
wonderful.
love Psalm 13. All right, everybody, thank you so much.
Thank
See
you,
you tomorrow.
everybody. Love to everybody. Love to you, Barbara, and love to everybody who offered today. Really, really.
Nice to have you back, Rabbi.
Thank you,
Very
Rabbi.
happy to be back. I miss you. I missed all of you very much.
You missed
Very
us.
happy to be back.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
That poem was breathtaking. I think everybody is silent from listening to the poem. So beautiful. I think of people I know who've committed suicide. And, I mean, as Barbara said, not who've died by suicide.
You're on mute, Barbara. If you're talking, you're on mute.
No,
Yeah.
I was just correcting. We don't
No,
use the
I just-
expression commit suicide, the group I'm in, because it's like you commit a bad act kind of thing. You know, and that's the thing. It might be semantics, but the leader of this group doesn't feel that way. So anyway, yeah, that's helped a lot too. You know, everyone in the group lost someone by suicide. Some children, but some spouses, you know, parents. I mean, it's just, anyway, so, but I said, I mean, I was muted before. I never would have been able to do this if I wasn't in the Psalms class. I never would have sat down to write something. But I mean, today would have been his 40th birthday. So yeah, he ended his life at 38. It's amazing what he accomplished in that, you know, in that time. And it's too bad that there wasn't a medication that he could have taken that would have helped him. But, you know, what can I say? It is what it is. But I'm better having taken, you know, being in the group, and I have a therapist, Cheryl has a therapist, and it's really working. Yeah, it's helping. So I think everyone, and certainly CBST, and in some ways COVID has helped me. Because isn't this funny? Not having COVID, but
what do you mean?
Stop. Because we stopped and we're home.
Right.
And I had more time to not run everywhere.
Mm.
You know, you're in the house and the classes are great. I mean, if I didn't have the CBST arm of this now, it would be horrible. But the fact that you can put on your computer and you can be, you know, you can just be introspective and not running everywhere.
Right.
You know, what can I say? It's helped me. Everything has helped. You know, Deborah's class at 3:00 on Fridays, everything. You know, so what can I say? And we're still in the Cape. We're leaving tomorrow. I wanted it. I didn't want to be on the road on November 30th, you know, because that was the best day of my life. I mean, I could, you know, I said the happiest, yeah, the best. But, you know, what can I say? I didn't want him to live if he was in so much pain, you know, so that's the only thing I can say, you know, so. And some people in the group lose people and they don't even know why. Okay, I knew that he had a lot of issues, you know, and it was, you know, it was chemical. So anyway, but he accomplished a lot. I mean, the scrapbook that came only like 2 or 3 weeks ago, which I explained, it was just amazing what people wrote. I mean, all his friends and whatever, and wishing that he, you know, was still here. But, you know, so I have that. And I'm going to have, what I didn't get a chance to say in class, I have a Zoom tonight with his friends, his ex-girlfriend.
I can't move. Okay.
Okay, 1 minute. 1 minute. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem.
Joanna's barging in. Okay. Yeah, go on.
No, I was just going to say that there's a Zoom tonight with his friends. So his ex-girlfriend reached out to all their friends in Portland. She's in New York now, but whatever. That's going to be one Zoom. And then my brother and his family, and hopefully my other brother who's in Seattle. I just got an email. I didn't get a chance to read it yet from him. But that family is where the newest member is. They have a granddaughter. So yeah, it was a wedding a year ago in May, and this past May she was born, so she's 6 months old. So, and it's the first girl other than me. So she's treasured by my brother, of course. And I hope to get out there, like hopefully in May for her first birthday, but who knows in this crazy world. But anyway, yeah, you know, being in therapy and taking a step back and the scrapbook, and, you know, it helps.
So glad
what can I say?
You know, that. I mean, I'm so glad you were able to write that.
Yeah, me too. And I don't even know, I knew I wanted to write something. I didn't know how it was going to be, but it definitely is in the form of a psalm. I mean, you saw it on the camera and a lot of repetitive lines, but I had to get all those names in because those are people that when they hear their name, that there's stories in there, like tonight, it's going to be important for them. Yeah. And the whole thing is important for me. I'm so glad I did it, you know. Sit down to so I was meant to be in this class and I was meant to do that, and that's the way I believe in this world. And you know, what are you gonna do? You gotta make, what is it?
Lemonade out of lemons.
Lemonade out of lemons. That was
Is
exactly
that what
I
you
wanted.
meant? I don't know.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
You take goodness out of what it is, you know, so.
Right.
Yeah, so that's it. And I'm glad. I didn't get to see the comments yet. Harold said I was gonna get them, hopefully.
Yeah, you'll
I
get
saw
it.
some of them, but I'm sure that there's a record of them.